it off to some remote service. And then the best part is the client or the remote service has no idea that any of this has happened. It's completely transparent to the client. I have a brief demo. Find other windows. Mouse. I'm just going to run my program. Everything's logged to syslog currently. So it started up. It reads a config file for like what type of ports it binds on, and then it also has a magic definitions file. And so right now it's listening right here, in that IP and this port number. So, for instance, if I were to connect to my local server on a specific port, you can see here it connected to localhost, but oh, it's being redirected to Freenode. And so once this goes through, it's just a typical IRC session. So and it's just a typical IRC session. If I were to get a web browser and go to my local host on the same port, it'll serve up, this is bash.org here, it'll serve this up. And then you can, the links are all relative to the domain, so I can click on something. And it just serves a request just like bash.org would. Fine. This over here. Whoa.
Josh,
I know you love this program.
Yeah. This is what it is. In my class, this is what happened.
So we go here. We can do a direct connection to. That is the same host and the same port. And then this is the RGA's Minecraft server. Pardon my FPS. Get out of here, guy. I think we got that. So yeah. So given the type of traffic, this program will determine what type of client is connected to it, and then just hand it off to a remote service. So this allows you, as a server operator, to run what appears to be multiple different services over the same port. And so this has come in handy for us. This is kind of like a joke. This started off as sort of a joke where we were given a very restrictive port set when we run servers. So it's like, I wish I could run multiple servers on the same port because they only give us 80, 443, and 22 outside of the firewall. I began to think about, well, how would I actually make that possible? And this is the culmination of that. So, any questions or comments?
What's the performance over here?
It's pretty fast. I mean, I haven't tested it with. The Minecraft Pre is the most talkative of these protocols, and it seems to work pretty well. It seems to be responsive.
The other things are all still running, right, in the background?
Yeah, yeah. I've connected to like other multiplayer servers with other people playing, and people can talk in real time.
I think he was meaning that your web
the
service.
IRC still going, the
Web service.
Oh yeah,
Web service.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
You know that it's a very destructive technology, but I didn't hear it.
Oh yeah, high school students would go for this stuff, nothing, right?
Oh yeah. Asher.
What happens if you try and run 2 Minecraft servers using this?
Like 2 remote Minecraft servers?
Yeah.
Well, the way that it differentiates, the only way that it would work was that you'd have to have a Minecraft client that talked in either like one version of the protocol, or if they made an update and it was a different version of the protocol. That's the only way it would be able to differentiate. You could potentially just have something that would randomly connect to one or the other, but
If you try and like set up two, it'll just pick one and it's like everything goes there.
yeah, you define in this magic file, which is what libmagic uses. You define the protocol specifications. So if it's talking in some protocol, it'll connect to one server. If it's talking in a different protocol, then you can point it to another server.
Because like I think it would be interesting if, let's say, you had IRC open, and you could say, well, if my nick is AsherGlick, send me over to a server that doesn't do anything. If my nick is JoshDK, send me over to the server that lets me access everything.
That's a little outside the scope of this, because then you'd have to be actually interpreting the entire protocol.
That makes sense.
And this is just read the handshake, figure out what type of client you are, and then let someone else deal with it.
How flexible is the magic file? Would you be able to do that as like specifying the magic bytes to be like someone's username?
Yeah, potentially. Like if you could define in the magic file where if it was nick followed by my specific username, go to one server. If it was nick followed by someone else's username, go to another server. It just depends on how specific you as a server administrator wants to get, and how consistent that protocol is.
So then, would you be able to say, running two web sessions off the same, port? Because it sounds like what you're saying is that you send a handshake over from one of the servers, and then you just kind of forward that over. It's almost like port forwarding, like an SSH port forwarding, but you're forwarding
Something like that.
something like that. So how would you?
It acts as a bouncer.
Right. So if you were like, would you be able to work two dynamic sites at once? If you have one site's being sending requests and keep sending a handshake back and forth, and then another site tries to do the same thing, how does that work?
If they're talking in two different protocols, like if you were to have an HTTP 1.1 client versus a 1.0 client, like wget versus curl, you could differentiate on that metric. You could also differentiate between get and post or connect.
But if they're the same, just imagine like they're the same. Like
if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck.
Can you send it to different services based like if it's a get for a different URL, could you send it to a different service?
Yes, you could in the same way that you could match based on the IRC name, and I can actually show you the magic file. So this is what the basic magic file looks like. So up here we have our this is two different HTTP specifications. So like these two, at offset 0, we're looking for a string that string content is get an escaped space and a slash. You could potentially match something else after the slash to be some other resource, and then you could forward it as something else. It just depends how specific you want to get.
So you could actually have a problem with two different things that normally run on different ports but actually have the same prefix.
Yeah. You have like what do you use on IRC, Asher?
I use AsherGlick.
Just do it like that.
All right.
So like, yeah, you could have two different specifications, and this could be like IRC1 and IRC2. And then, so libmagic's basic functionality will read this, read a buffer, and then return one of these two strings. It'll return a string description. From there you can, there's also a configuration file. So it'll take in a list of, like, these are potential strings that libmagic would return. And so you could potentially filter on different, you could just define a separate service. Like that. And then it would have two different service names, and then you could have some other different, for for instance, IRC server. Do you have a question?
Oh, just a question for you, like port, you have HTTP and IRCD, do you have predefined, like, do some ports predefined?
That is actually a really cool feature that I found out while writing this project. There's a low-level, everything's written in C. There's a low-level C function called getAddrInfo, which will basically do a DNS lookup on a host.
Cool.
You can pass it a host name as well as a service description that comes from Etsy services. And so you can pass either a port number or a textual description, and then the C API will just take care of it for you. Completely transparently. And so you could either have like 22 or SSH. And it would both resolve to the same thing. So, and that function actually queries this file.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.